It was a Tuesday in January 2025, a day like any other for Boston's subway commuters, until everything changed in a matter of minutes. The morning had started off typically, with the usual hustle and bustle of people heading to work, school, and other daily routines. The subway was filled with the familiar sounds of conversations, the rustling of newspapers, and the occasional announcement over the intercom. The routine ride turned into a nightmare as violence erupted without warning, shattering the calm and predictable rhythm of the commute. The city's sense of safety was shattered in an instant. People who had been quietly minding their own business were suddenly thrust into a situation of sheer terror. In less than 3 minutes, a subway car became a scene of chaos and terror, with passengers scrambling to understand what was happening and how to protect themselves. The lives of those inside were forever altered. Strangers found themselves comforting each other, trying to make sense of the senseless violence that had erupted. Benjamin Park, an ordinary passenger, unleashed a sudden, brutal attack, turning the familiar commute into a desperate fight for survival. His actions were swift and unexpected, leaving little time for anyone to react. The familiar faces of fellow commuters turned into expressions of fear and desperation as they tried to escape the unfolding horror. The metallic glint of a knife, a weapon that seemed so out of place in the mundane setting of a subway car, the first cry of pain, a sound that pierced through the usual noise of the commute, and the scramble for safety, all unfolded in a horrifying blur. People pushed and shoved, desperate to get away from the source of the violence. This incident would leave Boston questioning how such horror could erupt in the most ordinary of places. The city, known for its resilience, now faced the challenge of healing and finding answers in the wake of an unthinkable tragedy. Boston Subway, the T, is the city's lifeline, carrying over 1 million riders daily through its crowded, bustling tunnels. On that morning the train was packed, anonymity and proximity blending into a tense, shared space. The attack struck deep underground between stations, trapping passengers with no escape. Panic spread as the confined car became a pressure cooker of fear, the usual city sounds replaced by screams and chaos. With doors sealed and nowhere to run, passengers were forced to rely on each other to survive. The subway, meant to connect the city, became a rolling prison, a stage for a nightmare that would haunt Boston's collective memory. The event forever changed how many viewed their daily commute. The violence began without warning. One moment, the subway car was filled with the quiet hum of late-night commuters, the soft rattle of the tracks, and the distant echo of city life above. People sat lost in their own worlds, scrolling through phones, reading, or simply staring out the window, lulled by the routine of the journey. Benjamin Park, silent and expressionless, suddenly stood and attacked a nearby passenger. There was no argument, no raised voices. Not even a hint of tension in the air, just a sudden, explosive act of violence that shattered the calm. The assault was swift and unprovoked, sending shockwaves through the car. In an instant the atmosphere shifted from mundane to menacing, as if the very air had changed. Panic erupted as passengers realized the threat was real. The initial disbelief gave way to terror as people scrambled to process what was happening. Some froze in shock, while others instinctively ducked or tried to shield themselves. People surged away from the attacker, stumbling over each other in a desperate bid for safety. The narrow aisles became a chaotic tangle of bodies, bags, and outstretched hands, everyone trying to put distance between themselves and the violence. Park moved through the car, attacking indiscriminately, his actions unpredictable and terrifying. No one knew who might be next, and the sense of helplessness was overwhelming. His motives remained a terrifying mystery. There was no explanation, no demand, just a cold, unreadable determination in his eyes that made the situation even more chilling. Everyday objects, purses, backpacks, even umbrellas, became makeshift shields as passengers tried to defend themselves. Some tried to hide behind seats, while others used whatever they could grab to protect themselves or their loved ones. The attack lasted only minutes, but in that confined space every second felt stretched and distorted. The chaos was overwhelming, with screams, shouts, and the sounds of struggle echoing off the metal walls. For those trapped inside, time seemed to slow to a crawl, each moment etched into memory as a living nightmare. Fear was etched on every face, and the sense of vulnerability was absolute. The train car, once a mundane vessel for daily commutes, was transformed into a scene of horror and survival. Belongings were scattered, seats overturned, and the air was thick with the aftermath of panic. Outside, the city moved on, blissfully unaware of the trauma unfolding below. Above ground, life continued as normal. Cars honked, people hurried home, and the world remained oblivious to the terror beneath their feet. Inside the subway, however, strangers were suddenly bound together by fear and the desperate fight to stay alive. In those harrowing moments, the boundaries between them dissolved, replaced by a shared will to survive and a hope that help would arrive before it was too late. The victims were ordinary Bostonians, students, professionals, parents, caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. 4 people were injured, their identities protected, their wounds ranging from minor to critical. The physical scars were visible, but the psychological trauma would linger far longer. Everyone in that car became a victim, their sense of safety shattered in an instant. Survivors described shock, numbness, and a lasting fear of public spaces. Their stories highlight the random cruelty of the attack and the long road to recovery. Their resilience became a quiet but powerful part of Boston's response. Amid the chaos, acts of courage emerged, passengers risking themselves to protect others. Some used backpacks, coats, or even textbooks to distract or block the attacker, giving others precious seconds to escape. A woman pulled a bleeding victim to safety, using her scarf to staunch the wound. These were ordinary people acting on instinct and empathy, turning fear into action. When the train stopped, passengers helped the wounded onto the platform, comforting those in shock. In those first moments, they became a community, supporting each other before help arrived. Their bravery and compassion shone through the darkness, a testament to the human spirit. Their actions deserve to be remembered and honored. As the train doors slid open, chaos erupted onto the platform. The air was filled with piercing screams, the sound of hurried footsteps, and the desperate shouts of people calling for help. In an instant, the ordinary bustle of the subway transformed into a scene of panic and confusion, as passengers scrambled to escape the unfolding emergency. Some clung to each other, while others rushed toward the exits, their faces etched with fear and disbelief. Within minutes, transit police and paramedics arrived on the scene, their training kicking in as they navigated the chaos. Officers quickly moved to secure the area, establishing a perimeter to keep bystanders safe and prevent further harm. Paramedics, carrying medical kits and stretchers, pushed through the crowd, searching for the injured and assessing the situation with practiced urgency. Their presence brought a sense of order to the confusion, as they worked together to take control of the crisis. Inside the subway car, officers confronted Benjamin Park, the suspect at the center of the chaos. He was surrounded, his escape routes blocked by the swift response of law enforcement. Without resistance, Park surrendered to the officers, who quickly placed him in handcuffs and led him away from the scene. Their decisive action ensured that the threat was neutralized before more harm could be done. On the platform, paramedics sprang into action, triaging the wounded and providing life-saving aid. They worked methodically, assessing injuries, stopping bleeding, and offering words of comfort to those in shock. Victims were stabilized and quickly transported to nearby hospitals, where teams of doctors and nurses stood ready to continue their care. The speed and efficiency of the medical response made a critical difference for many. The coordinated efforts of police, paramedics, and other first responders brought a sense of calm to the chaos. Working side by side, they managed the scene, reassured frightened passengers, and gathered crucial evidence for the investigation. Their teamwork was a testament to the countless hours of training and preparation that go into emergency response. Through their professionalism and compassion, first responders ensured that victims received the best possible care, while the attacker was swiftly brought to justice. Their actions not only saved lives but also restored a sense of security to a community shaken by violence. In the aftermath, the people of Boston came together, supporting one another and expressing gratitude to the emergency teams who had risked their own safety to protect others. The city's resilience shone through as neighbors comforted each other, and strangers became allies in the face of adversity. Though the scars of that day would linger, the swift and selfless response of Boston's emergency services marked the first step toward healing. A reminder that even in the darkest moments, hope and courage endure. After his arrest, Benjamin Park was processed and charged with multiple counts of assault and attempted murder. Authorities searched for a motive, examining his background and mental health, but answers remained elusive. Park was held without bail, the evidence against him overwhelming, eyewitness accounts and physical proof. The legal process would be long, with psychiatric evaluations and the possibility of a public trial. For victims and families, the court proceedings meant reliving trauma but also seeking closure. The city watched, hoping justice would bring some measure of peace. News of the attack sent shockwaves through Boston, shaking the city's sense of safety on public transit. The MBTA responded with increased police presence and accelerated security upgrades, aiming to restore public confidence. Vigils and fundraisers sprang up as the community rallied to support victims and their families. Mental health resources and support groups were made available for those affected. The tragedy sparked citywide conversations about public safety, mental health, and how to prevent future violence. Boston's spirit of resilience and compassion was on full display as neighbors came together in solidarity. The attack became a catalyst for change, prompting difficult but necessary questions about safety and support. The city vowed to learn, adapt, and protect its people. The Boston subway assault is a stark reminder of how quickly normalcy can be shattered, yet it also revealed the best of humanity: bravery, compassion, and unity in the face of terror. True safety comes from vigilance, community, and a willingness to help one another. Healing requires ongoing commitment, supporting mental health, reporting concerns, and fostering a culture of care. We honor the victims by refusing to let fear define us, and by strengthening the bonds that hold our city together. Let this story be a call to action, to be more aware, more compassionate, and more united, ensuring our public spaces remain places of connection, not fear.